Hey, Jane,
Hey, Josh.
did you just join like 2 seconds ago?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I restarted Zoom and you weren't there when I restarted, and then you were there. So I was like, oh, I hope I wasn't like malfunctioning and you were waiting for 10 minutes or something.
No. So, am I the only one who's logged in so far?
So far.
Okay. So while I got you, I didn't get a chance to ask a question last time because my son has a,
Yeah.
you
You
know,
had to
his,
leave early last time.
well, I have to leave early every time now because my son's daycare pickup time is now 3.
Yep.
So I've lost 2.5 hours of productivity every single day, Monday through Friday.
Things we
Uh,
do for our kids, huh?
Yeah, and because my wife is working full time, that basically means I have to keep them occupied until dinner, essentially. So it's anyway. Um, I was I wanted to ask you, since we first started, or since I published last year, um, what have you noticed has changed in the self-published industry? For example, is Amazon now doing full hardcover books? I think there are a lot of other platforms now that are very competitive to Ingram Spark, where you don't have to. I mean, even like Draft to Digital, I think is now offering print, where they will print your books and sell them all over the place. So I'm just curious, what's your information on the latest?
Yeah. So, of course, prices have gone up because everything's gotten more expensive with inflation and supply chain issues. So it just costs more to print a book. Amazon just sent out an email today to KDP members saying that because paper and other costs have gone up, they have to charge a larger portion of your royalties just to print their books.
Mm.
Although I don't think that's a huge hit, but it's something. The hardcover, yeah, you can do hardcover on Amazon, but only a certain type of hardcover.
You can't do the hardcover with the sleeve, is that right?
Right. You can't do it with a dust jacket or a sleeve. So you can do a book like this where it's like it's actually printed on the cover, but there's no dust jacket. So this is the type of book that you can print through Amazon, and it's hardcover. But this type of cover is more what you see on like children's books or like young adult fiction type stuff. So if you're getting Captain Underpants or something, this is the type of hardcover that
Mm.
would be printed on. So I don't think it's really a fit for business books so much, although I have seen some business books released in that type of hardcover. It's just not the way I would do it. I would recommend the dust jacket because I think it looks more professional.
Mm.
And so
Have you looked at all into the Draft to Digital?
I haven't looked specifically at Draft to Digital.
Okay, because that was a platform where I just uploaded my ebook. And instead of only having my ebook available on Amazon, now my ebook's available on Barnes and Noble and oh, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 different ebook distributors.
Got it.
And they,
Um,
and they've been sending out a lot of emails, and I think now they're doing prints. So as a 100% bootstrapped entrepreneur, stay-at-home dad, and self-published author, I'm trying to figure out, what is the best alternative? Because I know Ingram Spark has more of a start initial cost.
um, Not really. I mean, Ingram Spark is print on demand, even for hardcover. So it's, I mean, there's minimal costs involved, but the same costs that you would incur anywhere else. And if you use Ingram Spark, it's probably what Draft to Digital and anybody else is using. Like if you can do hardcover through Barnes and Noble, but they outsource to Ingram Spark. So everybody, I mean, if you're doing any sort of print on demand that's hardcover with a dust jacket, it's probably actually being fulfilled by Ingram Spark behind the scenes.
Now, if you do Ingram Spark, how does order fulfillment work? Like,
They're connected with Amazon. So
oh, so Amazon, somebody who ordered your book off Amazon would still order it, would would be the same. They would just order their hardcover. Amazon would do their order fulfillment through Ingram Spark because that's where your printer is.
Right. So like with my LinkedIn book, this hardcover here is coming from Ingram Spark. I never have to do a thing with Ingram Spark to make sure that it shows up here. It just shows up here. They keep selling it. And I mean, I set it all up on Ingram in the first place, but I haven't logged into my Ingram Spark account for 6 months. And it just keeps showing up here. So the paperback, of course, is done through Amazon KDP. The audiobook's done through ACX, which is Audible, which is Amazon. Kindle, of course, is KDP. But that hardcover, so everything's going through Amazon except that hardcover is coming through from Ingram Spark.
Do you have a copy of
And
that with you handy where you can show me on the screen?
yeah, the book.
Yeah, the hardcover version.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, it's a little bit hard to see, but so one thing you'll notice, so you can choose from a glossy or more of a matte finish. I've got the matte finish on this versus, I mean, this is McGraw-Hill, so, but that's a glossy cover if you can see the reflection there a little bit.
Yeah.
So that's a matter of personal preference. Should I have done glossy? I don't know. Maybe, I'm not sure. So now McGraw-Hill probably didn't go through Ingram Spark. They probably have their, well, McGraw-Hill probably has their own printing presses. But if you want to take it a step up from Ingram, you can go with an offset printer. But then you do get into the issues of quantities and warehousing. So an offset printer is going to give you some nicer options for printing the cover. Like if you wanted to do an emboss or something where there's like texture on it, or you want to do a metallic ink or something like that, you can get as fancy as you want to with an offset printer. And there are larger offset printers where you can get better financing. I just put one in the workbook the other day. I can't remember offhand what it's called, but then you have to deal with warehousing, and they'll take care of warehousing, but then you have to pay for them every month that they're warehousing your book and making sure that it's in stock on Amazon. Whereas with Ingram, because it's all print on demand, you don't have to pay anything. You're just paying, I mean, you're paying a portion of each copy that gets printed and sent out.
So when you get a copy sold, for example, on Amazon, a hardcover, Amazon will calculate their cost based on what Ingram Spark charges them.
Right. So I don't know exactly what the formula is there. I haven't really paid attention to it, but yeah, Amazon takes their cut, Ingram takes their cut, and then you get what's left.
Yeah. Well, it's like you said, as in our situation, our goal isn't to generate revenue by selling books. Our goal is to generate awareness by having more books sold. So
right. So as long as it pays for itself, I'm pretty happy. And that's just a matter of setting your pricing the right way.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to remember. I don't recall any setup costs really with Ingram. There may have been some setup costs, but if there were, they were pretty minimal. I mean, a couple $100 at most.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I was always trying to, like with Amazon, if you do everything through Amazon, there's like 0 setup costs. So
right.
That was, by the way, my cousin's book, Family First Entrepreneur, because he has HarperCollins as the publisher, it's already in Barnes and Noble's bookstores.
Nice.
So by the way, you do it through Ingram Spark. Your book became a New York Times or USA Today bestseller. Did it get into bookstores? The 60 Days to LinkedIn Mastery?
No, I didn't get it into any bookstores.
Is that because you were self-published?
Yeah, I mean, so Ingram distributes to bookstores, but they have to request it. They have to pull it into the bookstore. So it's not that like they're going to push it out to bookstores. So, I mean, if I go to a Barnes and Noble, I could talk to a Barnes and Noble manager and they could order some books from Ingram and carry it. But I would basically have to go to every Barnes and Noble out there and tell them to pull it. And then they would only pull it in if they thought it was going to sell.
And that's because you're least 60 books, 60 Days of LinkedIn Mastery is still self-published?
Well, because it's self-published and because there's not like a major marketing campaign behind it. I mean, if it were a book that was self-published, but everybody was hearing about it, then it would get attention. And then Ingram would probably promote it to the bookstores and say, hey, this is selling everywhere. You should get this in your bookstore too.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But
So
you
that's,
think about the numbers. I mean, a bookstore can only carry a few thousand titles, and there are a million new books every year that are coming out. So
especially
they
with
have
the
to be
self-published
super
industry.
discriminating about what they put on their shelves.
Yeah. So,
So basically, only bestsellers end up on the shelves.
well, it's like I said, my cousin is a first-time author, and it's already on the shelves because
Yeah,
he got a book deal through HarperCollins, or a six-figure book deal through HarperCollins.
yeah,
So
yeah. So that's a different situation. So HarperCollins is using their connections to get it on the shelves.
yeah. All right. Hi, Virginia.
Hi,
Hi,
Virginia.
everybody. Sorry I'm late.
It's okay. I was just chatting with Josh. I'm gonna have to sign off early like I did last time because I got to pick up my son at 3. But I was asking Josh about how the printing industry and the order fulfillment industry has changed, and I think the answer that Josh gave me, just the conclusion is, for hardcover books with a jacket, I should probably still use Ingram Spark.
Yeah.
Still probably use whose book?
Ingram Spark.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Ingram Spark is pretty much the largest printer of books in the world. And they make it really easy to self-publish, do print on demand, hardcover, dust jacket. Pretty
Now,
nice.
can you order author copies from Ingram Spark pretty
Yes.
cheaply?
Yep.
And can you have author copies delivered to other addresses? Like if somebody bought one cover, like if you promise somebody a free copy of a book, you could just pay Ingram Spark the cost of the book and have them ship it to another person?
They might be able to do that. I think you're better off ordering a bunch and shipping them out yourself.
Because I tried that. That's more expensive to ship
Well, it's
each
a
one out
pain,
yourself.
that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, even without the pain, it's more expensive. It's like Amazon you can order author copies and send them anywhere at the Amazon shipping cost, which is like in the US would be like $250.
Mm-hmm.
And then your printing cost, which was like $250. So it'd be like $5 to ship a softcover book anywhere in the United States. But to pack it up and ship it UPS, I think is like 11 or $12 to ship a book across the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can send out author copies to individual people. I mean, I'm sure you can, but you might be paying through the nose for them to do it, to do the fulfillment that way. So when I ordered my author copies, I ordered 1,000. So I got a pallet delivered to my garage full of my book, and then I've been sending them out from just the post office, medium mail.
Oh, so you've been paying all that extra shipping cost.
Right. So when I ordered because otherwise, I mean, you think about it from Ingram Spark standpoint, if you order 1,000 books, you get a bulk discount. Like if you order 100 books, you're paying like $20 a book. If you order 1,000 books, you're paying $5 a book. So if you order a lot of books and then you have them sitting at Ingram and you're giving them a list of addresses to ship them, then you've got all that shipping and handling that they're going to be doing, and they're going to charge you extra for every address that you ship to. Plus they're going to charge you for the book sitting there.
What do they charge you for when Amazon orders one book print on demand?
Ingram doesn't, they just take it out of their normal fee. But the thing is, the way that works is they're shipping a bunch of books over to Amazon's warehouse, and then Amazon's doing fulfillment.
Yeah, but they're only printing one of your book.
Well, they'll keep ahead of it. So if they think that your book is going to sell a certain number of copies, they're going to print that many copies and send them over to Amazon.
Oh.
And then they sit at Amazon. So they're not printing a book. They're not literally printing one book every time a book is ordered, they're going to do calculations and say, hey, we should print 250 of these and send them over. That'll keep us for the next 6 months or 1 month or whatever.
And,
So they
and
have
will,
some sort of formula for how many they print and send over to Amazon.
will you get charged if, like, say, nobody buys your book?
No, because
That's a risk they take.
well, you mean by Amazon?
Let's just say, yeah, let's just say I do a hardcover version of my book, and so they have to send 20 copies to Amazon, but then they say that book never sells.
Yeah, I mean, Amazon takes that risk.
Oh, Amazon takes that risk. Okay.
Right, because it's sitting at Amazon's warehouse, not Ingram.
But nobody's paid for it yet.
Right. So they might, I mean, I don't know exactly how this works. I'm guessing here.
Oh, okay.
Amazon might look at a new book and say, hey, we're not going to order a single copy of this from Ingram until somebody buys one. But if a bunch of people buy them, then we've got a formula and we're going to order this many to make sure that we have it in stock. And then they're taking on the inventory of that as well.
Okay.
So thinking to my book, so my book, the first week we did a promotion with the Kindle version of it for 99 cents. And so I sold over 7,000 of my book as a Kindle. And so Amazon probably looked at that and said, oh, hey, this just sold a ton on Kindle. We should place an order for the print books because they probably have some formula saying if this many Kindle books are sold, then this many print books are going to sell. So they probably triggered an order with Ingram saying, hey, send us this many books. And then they end up with that in their inventory at an Amazon warehouse somewhere, and it sits there until it gets low. And they have some formula to say, this is when we should reorder.
All right. Last question before I let Virginia ask a question. If you only do soft cover through Amazon, or if you only do printing through Amazon, can Amazon get those books to physical stores like Barnes and Noble?
No, Amazon doesn't deliver to physical bookstores.
Okay, so that would only be done through Ingram Spark. All right, all right,
Yep.
all right. That's all the questions I had.
All
What's
right,
the latest with you, Virginia?
Well, I wanted to piggyback off that. I missed the thing with Ingram. Are you saying that Ingram is the printer? I used to know them as a publisher.
Right. So Ingram Spark
Yep.
is, you can think of it as a printing house. So,
Okay.
and it's a print on demand situation. And the only format you would want to use for Ingram Spark is your hardcover with a dust jacket. Anything else, paperback, or if it's going to be hardcover like this, where there's no dust jacket, it's just printed on the cover, you would just do that through Amazon. But if you want it like nice business book with a dust jacket, then you go through Ingram.
All right. I want it. So without the dust jacket, taking notes here, you go through Amazon.
Right. So paperback is done through Amazon, audio, ebook, that's all done through Amazon. Only the hardcover with dust jacket is done through Ingram Spark.
Right. I liked that the 99-cent order with Kindle. That also can that up your Amazon ratings too? The fact that you had 99-cent books.
Yep. Now, of course, you still have to drive traffic. If you just discount it to 99 cents, but nobody knows it exists, you'll still sell 0 copies. It only helps if you have a marketing push, pushing attention to it somewhere saying, hey, this book's on sale for 99 cents.
Okay, so you need a marketing push.
And I did that with a partner of mine, but it cost me a ton of money to do it. Because they have a bunch of email lists. So they blasted it out to a couple 100,000 people on their email list, but I had to pay big to get on that email list.
Oh, so you paid for to sell 7,000 copies.
Yep.
I missed that. You sold 7,000 copies for the LinkedIn book.
Yep. The first week. And then the next week I sold probably 20 copies.
Yeah. So you partnered with someone.
Right.
Is it almost like a book barb or
BookBub?
BookBub?
It's just a guy who has built up a bunch of email lists of people who have opted in to get discounts on books. And so he's got hundreds of thousands of subscribers of people who say, hey, I want to get alerts every time there's a 99-cent Kindle deal. And
Mhm.
so every week he can blast out to about 2 books. So he can run 2 campaigns every week. And the idea is if you sell enough copies in 1 week, then you can get on the USA Today and Wall Street Journal bestseller lists. So I paid to get my book
just from Kindle?
blasted out, and then I sold that many copies, and that's how I got on those bestseller lists.
I think I'm on that list because I get an email of all the books you can get for like 99 cents or $1.99.
You might be. I mean, there's probably multiple lists that he's got going, but
Okay.
yeah.
And how much did the campaign cost you? Do you mind me asking?
No, he normally charges $60,000 to run it.
60,000 to run it. Wow.
That's to guarantee one. If you want to guarantee both Wall Street Journal and USA Today, he'll guarantee it for double that, for 120.
No, when he says guaranteed, does that mean he'll keep on promoting your
He'll-
book until you reach a certain number?
He'll either keep on promoting it until you get on the list, or he'll give you your money back.
Ooh, okay. Yeah. Well, then that's not for me.
It wasn't for me either. I got suckered into it. That's
Well, in hindsight, was it worth what you paid?
I think the jury's still out on that. I would say definitely maybe. I mean, because of what I'm doing here as a book coach, that's worth something to me, right? To be a Wall Street Journal and USA Today bestselling author, because I can monetize that, right?
Mhm.
And you might be able to monetize it too, Gene. I mean, there's value in having that, but if it were just for my ego, 100% wouldn't have done it. But in fact, I wouldn't have done it anyway, even for the business justification of it. And I didn't get suckered into it, but I got trapped into it. What happened was one of my clients signed up for it. So my client paid for it, but then he really delayed on his book. In fact, his book's still not out. So he paid like 2 years ago for this program because the guy's got a waiting list and it's like 9 months. So my client paid up front to get into this program. But then when 9 months came, his book wasn't ready. So I told the guy, I said, hey, my client's book isn't ready. And the guy told me, he said, you can always move this back. You can always push it back. That's no problem. So I said, hey, his book's not ready. We need to push it back. And so he said, that's fine. We'll push it back to this date. So we pushed it back. And then when that date came along, it still wasn't ready. And we were about 2 months away from when his campaign was supposed to go. And I said, hey, it's still not ready. We need to push it back again. And he said, oh, no, like I already pushed it back once, but I can't do it again. Like you have to run. And I'm like, well, the guy's book isn't ready. And he said, sorry, like I've already paid my guys and everything's set up. It's all ready to go. Like we're doing this. And I was like, but he doesn't have a book. And he's like, well, he'll just lose a spot then and lose the money. I'm like, well, that's not an option. I mean, this guy paid, at the time it was 50 grand. So I was like, this guy paid for this. He's not going to be but I was kind of trapped. So I was in between the client and the guy who provides the service. And I could have fought it, but I have a good partnership with this guy who runs the service. And so this was right around the time that my LinkedIn book was getting finished up. So I was like, so I negotiated with him and I said, hey, okay, what if we run my LinkedIn book instead of my client's book and I'll pay for it? And he owed me some commissions from people I had referred to him and stuff. So I wasn't out of pocket 50 grand, but I was out of pocket like 25 or 30 grand, which is still, it was more money than I had at the time. So that was
and more than you got back in 99-cent book revenues.
right. Because I mean, I probably got $5,000 or $6,000 back in royalties from that week. So it definitely didn't pay for itself there, but I was really stuck. I didn't really, I mean, I could either ruin the relationship with my partner who was doing a good job and I was getting commissions from him by other people I referred to him. So I didn't want to ruin that relationship, or I could go to my client and say, oh, sorry, that expired and your 50 grand that you paid is gone, which I also couldn't do. So I was just trapped in the middle. I was like, okay, I'm going to use this for my LinkedIn book. I'm trapped. I'll do this. And so that's how I ended up doing it. And thankfully it worked and I got the bestseller status. So at least I've got that for the rest of my life. I can advertise that. And yeah, so that question of, well, has it paid off? Maybe, maybe not at this
I think a
point.
good
Maybe I've
idea-
broken even, but
Yeah, I think a good idea for one of your next blogs is talking about that client, because his book, even after he made a $50,000 commitment to get it promoted, getting delayed and not written. I think that's what we're all going through.
yeah.
And we'd love to hear, you know, as a professional book coach, what is the reasons he's getting stuck and how can he get unstuck?
Yeah. His is finally coming out. It's coming out in August. And actually, he never got stuck. It just took a lot longer. He's a wealthy guy. He hired a ghostwriter. He hired a New York Times bestselling ghostwriter. He paid a lot of money for that. He paid me a lot of money for coaching. He paid for this promotion program. He hired a hybrid publisher to manage everything. So like he paid a lot of money to manage this whole process and get the book done. It just ended up taking that long to get through all the steps.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like the money was a real problem for him.
No, I mean, this is a guy with his own private yacht and jet and stuff. The money's, I don't want to say it's a drop in the bucket because he didn't get to where he is by burning money, but when he wants to do something, he can do what he wants.
Right.
Well, and there are also psychic rewards for him probably too. And with you, you still don't know yet because you did get those titles of the Wall Street Journal and the other, and the jury's still out. You don't know what else is going to come because you did that. You know,
Right.
and can you write it off your taxes too? That was my next question.
Yeah, it was a business expense.
So there's something in that too.
Yeah.
To be able to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully it works out. I mean, if sometime in the next 10 years, I get one good book coaching client, like high net worth book coaching client, because I have that status as a best-selling author, then it pays for itself. So it wouldn't take much.
And I really believe that there are no accidents, that everything happens for a reason. And that I've seen a lot of it in my own life, amazing things. And it just might, in other words, that is a step leading to something else.
I've thought about that many times. I mean, when it happened, I thought about it because I was talking with my wife, trying to explain to my wife why I needed to spend $30,000 on this book promotion program and instead of paying us with it.
Yeah.
And I was like, who knows? Maybe this is meant to happen. Maybe, there's no way I would have done this voluntarily. Maybe this is the only way I ever would have done this, but maybe this is important for some reason in the future. And maybe 10 years down the road, we'll look back and say, hey, that was actually great that happened. It didn't seem great at the time, but maybe it all worked out.
Well, I can personally tell you that I've had in the last 2 years, 2 things happen in a way that was much bigger than I ever could have imagined. And I could see sequentially things that happened before that were why. And I didn't like any of it. As a matter of fact, it sucked. So, the jury's not out. You don't know yet. And as long as you can write it off your taxes, but if I were your wife, I would be a little angry.
The whole reason.
Well, of course, my wife's looking at it and she's like, "You did this on purpose, right? Like,
no, I know
you wanted this, right?"
I've been there. I've been there, and even after divorce, and finally one day it took a lot of work, but I finally realized certain things that was my attitude. It really had not much to do with my husband. That was a very painful day, which I have to admit, you had just as much fault in that situation as they did, but it's how women think. I have been, I think I emailed this to you that, I was driving around the other day and I'm flabbergasted at this. I haven't been doing too many books in my car. I might never stop doing them now. That Zen and the motorcycle.
Oh yeah.
It was something that I never in my wildest dreams would have read. If I was reading it in paperback, I would have read about 3 pages and gotten rid of it. But by listening to it, I really had an amazing experience by listening to, and maybe that's another thing too, your full attention is on the listening. And there was another dimension to it. I mean, that's quite a book.
Mhm.
And it really got me thinking too, because I think you know that I have real issues with the violence in the world and what's happening to children and the way people are in general behaving. And there was some of that in that book. It just something just clicked in my mind in a very different way about how
Bye,
you
Jean.
can. Bye, Jean. Nice to see you. Something just clicked in my mind in a very different way about how you can write and how you can take some of that information and put it through the characters like he did. And then to describe the way he described the breakdown, but then when he was getting better, he realized he shouldn't have told it to the child. That was the sick him. I mean, man, that
Yeah.
was so good. I couldn't believe it as I was driving along, because it takes a while to get to that point where it's like, wow. And I wouldn't have gotten there if I were reading the book. So that also showed it's a whole different way of doing things.
Yeah.
And so now I'm figuring that into some of my stuff too, because some of my points are better illustrated that way. It's a great way of showing how you illustrate points through characters in a way that I've never seen before. You
Yeah.
know?
Did you finish the book?
Yes, I did. It was 2 discs. Is that about right? And now what I'm going to do, which I also find, is get the book. Because now that I've heard it and everything, and I'm getting a lot of these from the library, but that one really made a dent. So thank you for that suggestion. That was really, and
It's a
now
powerful, it's a powerful book, but I agree at the beginning, it's a little slow and you're like, why am I listening to this? Or why am I reading this? But
is he still crazy?
yeah,
Was what I was
but,
thinking,
but I remember reading it the first time and thinking, that was weird, but I want to read it again. And then I read it again and I thought, this is actually really good. And then I read it a third time and I thought, this is fantastic. And by the time I read it a fourth time, I felt like my life had been changed. Well, it really did change. I read it, if I can get personal, I read it in between my junior and senior year of high school. My
wow.
sister, who's 7 years older than me, she read it in college and she thought I would like it for some reason. It wasn't the kind of book I read. I read fantasy and science fiction books. But she gave it to me and I was failing high school at the time. I had been failing for years in school. I hated school, didn't want anything to do with it. Felt like it was all just a rigged system. I didn't know why I was there, didn't want to be there. And I read that book and my senior year, I got straight A's
Wow.
without trying. It was just easy. But the shift was I read that book and it helped me to appreciate learning for learning's sake. And it helped me to see that, yes, the school system is everything you can say about it. It's corrupt, it's rigged, it's arbitrary, whatever you want to say about it. But I realized I'm here anyway, and I can enjoy learning whatever I want to learn and have fun with the process, even if I'm against the system overall or whatever. And so my senior year, I just enjoyed learning. And so getting A's was easy. It wasn't enough to save my GPA, but it changed the course of my education dramatically. So I credit that book to me being able to make it through college.
I'm not surprised. I was a pioneer and thought leader in career education in the 70s in one of the top 10 school systems in the country. And what I did was I used to match people. I would match a brilliant intellectual, socially challenged person with a socially brilliant, intellectually challenged child, and I would send them out to jobs. Magic would happen. And then I was thinking the other day, because I was just talking to a friend of mine who has a foundation and raised $160 million for underprivileged children with some of this. And he started explaining the process to me. So I sort of let him know he could skip certain stuff and we could go on to something else because I was very familiar with the process. And I got thinking of this student of mine that came from a Metco program that was, and he was Black, and there was an inner city school. And he came out to this affluent white suburb, and he always walked with the boombox, and he used to walk to the beat of the boombox. And he had a lovely young man, and lived in a tough neighborhood, and he had the bandana and the whole 9 yards. So I would have a questionnaire for these kids at the beginning about their dream job. And these they were young. I mean, they were, they were freshmen in high school. And so he wanted to be an investigator in suspended animation. And they're kids, so you listen to all of this, and it's part of the joy of working with children. And it turned out we had some robberies in the neighborhood that they thought the kids from Metco were going up to the mansions behind the school and relieving them of their silver and various things, So I called this kid in one day, and because he would be on the Metco bus and he would hear stuff like that. So I called him in one day to my office, and I said, how would you like your first job of being an investigator? Well, he was like, you saw the kid almost left the ground. I mean, he was so delighted, and all the rest. And then eventually, we caught the kids through. I said, no one will ever know you had anything to do with it. And we caught the kids, and I gave him his first check for, what was it, $25 or something, but to a young kid, it's something, for being an investigator. And I said, and I think it was suspended animation. Well, the whole boombox and his walking, when he was going out the door, he was practically flying. He was so thrilled, but it totally changes their self-esteem. And I had several kids like that, he wound up getting shot in something in his town years later. But I could see it. Just like what you said, and then they'd come back, and I would know this. I would know, like, they were having trouble in math, or they were having something else. So I'd send them to some place where they had to do a little addition or math or something, and then you listen to them. We have these weekly meetings, and you listen to them say, oh, now I know why I have to learn math. And they're bringing it back again. That concept, and as a matter of fact, and people were telling me in colleges now, pretty soon they're going to let people make their own curriculums. They're not going to have like standard curriculums. They're going to have people, it's going to be a mess. I don't know how anyone's going to do it, because the danger when you do a lot of that work is you have to be very dedicated, and sometimes it takes extra time to arrange different individual programs, and then to make sure the kids are going on their programs and all of that stuff. But in that whole book reminded me of my skills in that time in my life. And I thought, I could maybe put some of those over. It might be a much more interesting way of writing my writing through the characters like that. So at any rate, thank you for recommending it. And now I'm on the Mango Street one, and then I have a third one that you mentioned the other day. But is that normal to have 2 discs for a book? I was surprised.
Yes. That seems short, but I'm not sure. I haven't used CDs in so long. I've been using Audible and Scribd and other services. So,
is there a charge for Audible?
It is. Audible, you pay per book, and then Scribd, you pay per month, but you get unlimited reading.
So like for Scribd, what would it cost a month?
I think it's $9 a month.
Well, that's not outrageous.
It's a lot cheaper than, well, it's about as much as paying for the gas to go to the library. So
yeah, it's but what I couldn't get, and when I read some of those books we discussed before, and I had an Audible book from the library, and then I with the CDs, and then I also had the hard copy of the book from the library, and I felt like a clam at high tide. I said, this is really cool. I can listen to it this way and then come home and do it that way. So that's really beneficial for someone in my age group to learn this new technique, which is powerful. Yeah. But it also reminds me too that it is part of the reason that these children have the attention span of a gnat, and they don't want to sit down and read and stuff. So at any rate, but there was something profound that happened through when all of a sudden, I think he was talking about, he had a phrase about something of a funeral, and he was showing how a lot of the hypocrites and a lot of the people and the couple that was accompanying him on the trip, you know, kind of showed all that, the issues of what's kind of wrong in the world, or what people my age, you know, think is wrong in the world today, you know, because we had manners, we had to dress, we had to, you know, think of other people besides ourselves, you know, a few little like basic issues, you know.
Mhm.
And so at any rate, that was a great experience. And so that's about all I have to report today that was different, you know.
Well,
And
great.
I'm thrilled to hear that you finished your you know, your revision, and I will be working on that. And
I'm kind of shocked that it's done, this first draft, because I've been trying to get this first draft done for a year and a half. And when I finished it, I kind of sat there and I was like, wait, that's it? If I had known that's all that I had left, I would have gotten this done a long time ago. But in my mind, it was this huge mountain of work. So, and that's how it is so often, it seems like, with books, is we think there's so much work to be done, and then we actually do it and we say, why didn't I do that earlier?
it's, well, you know, the other day I was overwhelmed about a bunch of stuff, and I keep a card near my computer, and it says, you never know how close you are to the end. You know, when I was about to really, so what I think that I was also thinking, that's a way of thinking that you need to, and a much better way. I belong to this other group, a transformational group, and a lot of them are like very powerful ladies, intellectually powerful, and they're working very hard now on being calm in the moment, and they, you know, they have like high powered situations, and I was just going to see if I thought I could read something here for you, for that way of thinking. Clear away everything that is not serving a higher good, and release it in the deepest way in order to feel perfectly aligned with the stuff that you should be working on. And I am in a calm, receptive relationship with the creator. This is a woman who's working on a big film. I am co-creating with them and receiving guidance in every area, particularly with the film and its next steps. And then in the middle of so much that's happening, I'm holding a space for only my own well-being that is calm, centered, grounded, and connected. And I'm receiving guidance in the highest and best way. And you know, she's traveling around several different continents, working on this movie. And it's a very emotionally draining subject. And so what she's trying to work on is how to distance herself from all that emotion and just do the work, which all of that I find interesting. So I don't know if you will either. But that's about it. And I have 5:48. So what do you say we start? Now, what are you going to do now that you
Well, I want to run through it. I want to run through it again, and I've got people putting comments in there, so I have people reviewing it. So I need to see if there are any new comments in there, and then I'm sure if I just skim it, I'll probably find some stuff where I'm like, oh, I missed that part. I need to work
well,
on.
what I wondered is, would it be helpful? Because I intend to put comments. I didn't know how fast you needed it, and I was busy over the weekend, so I couldn't do it. But I didn't know if it would be helpful today if I made my comments during this hour. And but in order to do that, I probably am going to have to sign out from you, because I only have one computer and I have to go into your, you know, what you sent us. So if that's okay with you, and you could be a big boy and work on your own without me, I'm kidding. I will, that's what I'll do. I'll sign out and I'll sit here now and make the comments.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay,
I
great.
appreciate that.
And I will do that. I'll do that until 7.
All right, sounds great.
Okay,
Thanks so much, Virginia.
thank you. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.